Hello everyone, I'm about to show up the newest and will be one of the most craziest items in my foreign banknote collection. Now this little piece of paper might look like a stamp, but it's actually a banknote. It's a little hard to see. You get a close-up look. You can see it says 50 centimi, 50 cents. And it's a little hard to tell, but this is a Moroccan banknote. As you can see, it's got the Moroccan star on the front. And this is in French because Morocco was a protectorate in the French Empire for several decades, including when this was made in 1944. Now, I should mention that the banknote has a lot of Arabic on it too, because since Morocco was able to retain their own monarchy within the French Empire as a protectorate rather than a full colony, they had a much stronger degree of autonomy than places as like Algeria and Tunisia. Now, you're probably wondering, why in the world was Morocco making a banknote the size of a postage stamp? Well, we have to remember that in 1944, we were witnessing World War II, and Morocco was involved. As a French protectorate, they were a member of the Allies through France. As a member of the Allies, Morocco had to contribute a lot of their resources to the war effort, leading to material shortages on things like metal and paper. So, in order to save on materials, they decided to make smaller banknotes, which are actually made from a cardboard substance rather than a paper one, and they made them much smaller to ensure that they could make a large amount of them without having to consume large amounts of materials. Now, while most smaller banknotes issued under circumstances such as these tend to be very minimalistic with very little design whatsoever, these Moroccan ones are actually pretty interesting. There are two of them in the series, a 1 franc note and a 2 franc note. Because if we look at both the front and the back, you see a large amount of design. You might note that the Moroccan banknote here has a much more Arab appearance to it than the colonial banknotes you see in places like Algeria and Tunisia. We have to remember that since Morocco was a protectorate with their own monarchy, they had much more autonomy, they had a lot more control over things like this. So they have a much more native touch to them in the design. Observe how the border is very detailed with intricate design elements on the back. An architectural scene showing what appear to be ruins somewhere in Morocco. Fortunately, I can't read where this is. I looked closer at the banknote itself and it actually doesn't specify the location. The picture's not very easy to make out, but if anyone can recognize that or maybe thinks they know what it is, let me know in the comments. Now, since I'm at my parents' house in Palm Harbor, I decided to make a stop over at the flea market in Oldsmar, and I got a bunch of new banknotes from there that I got to show as well. The first two I'd like to show actually relate to the previous one, in that they're smaller banknotes created during a war effort. However, these were made by the Russian Empire in 1915 at the height of World War I. And unlike the Moroccan one, they're actually very small values, basically the equivalent of cents. First, we have 2 kopecks, and 3 kopecks. As you can see, these banknotes tend more towards the rule of banknotes of their type. They're very simple, very little design, really just saying what you need to know without much decoration. And they're very simple in terms of what sort of coloration is used. Although the Moroccan one kind of is too, it's almost entirely red. Anyway, on the subject of Russia's geopolitical influence, a couple of the banknotes I got at the flea market today are from the 90s from countries just after they had left the Soviet Union. First, we have 0.50 talonas from Lithuania in 1991. This banknote is extremely simple, and it really, apart from this overprint they put, it's really just this background with the value, and on the front, name of the country with their little coat of arms, and of course 1991 when it was issued. Next is a bit of a more fancier one. This is from Tajikistan, Central Asia. It's a mountainous country. This is from 1994. And in the early 1990s, Tajikistan continued to use a ruble. This is where 5 rubles. I can't think off the top of my head of what the name of their current currency is. I think it might be like the Som or something like that. Here we can see Tajikistan. I think this is a Capitol building. They got the flag on the front too. Showed this to my mom and she thought it was an Italian flag for a second. I never even noticed how similar Tajikistan's flag is to the Italian one, because if you don't really pay attention to the little symbol in the center and you turn it on its side, it does look pretty much like an Italian flag. Very interesting. This one's simpler on the vein of the previous one. However, I think the colors on this one look really neat. This is a Ukrainian banknote from 1995. It's worth 5,000. I might be about to butcher the pronunciation on this, but actually, oh, I don't remember what this. I don't remember what the unit was. It's some Ukrainian word that I can't really think off the top of my head. But these colors are something else. Look at them. We got the red with the blue and the yellow. Real strong contrast. And on the back, we got this little village scene here. I actually have another banknote from the series. It has the same exact back, so I think it was uniform apart from like this here and the denomination. That was a neat one though. Colors on that one are really neat. Back to the Baltics. We got Latvia. 2 rubli or ruble. I don't think they use the word ruble though. From 1992. I have the 1 rubli as well. I showed it in another video. And this one is it's almost identical apart from there being a 2. And also the color scheme is different. The 1 rubli has a yellow and purple color scheme. This one's got more of a red-orange one. Still a little yellow in there though. They're pretty simple. It's just this actually pretty neat looking little geometric thing here with the 2 sort of waves on the back. For the last post-Soviet one, this one's actually a really neat one because it's the first one I have from this country, Georgia. It's worth 3 rubloni from, I want to say 1993. I forgot the year. But this is neat because it's got that purple color. And it's really simple in terms of the writing, which is interesting. There's no signatures. It's just this up here and this down here. Somewhere it's got to say Georgia in here on it in Georgian. I don't read Georgian, so I wouldn't know. We got this little city scene here with the 3. And on the back, we got these mountains and what looks like a tunnel system of some sort. Very interesting. I really like the purple coloration on here. So I usually don't actually, I've only seen a few purple banknotes. Now, Georgia is an interesting case because although Georgia left the Soviet Union in 1991, or maybe before that, I don't remember off the top of my head, Georgia is still home to 2 Russian puppet states, South Ossetia and Abkhazia. There have been some very severe armed conflicts over these regions, and Russia maintains a military presence in them. I actually remember reading, I think it was earlier this year, about Russian citizens living in South Ossetia who joined the Russian forces to invade Ukraine. It was initially misreported that they were South Ossetians, although it was actually later clarified that they were just Russians living in South Ossetia. Although I wouldn't be surprised if South Ossetians and Abkhazians are involved in the Russian military since they are a Russian puppet state. And on the topic of Russian puppet states, there's a third Russian puppet state in Moldova called Transnistria, officially the Transnistrian Moldavian Republic. And here is a banknote from Transnistria. As you can see, it's in Russian. Transnistria is a Russian puppet state because they have a large Russian population. And I'm not sure if this is the case now considering recent events, but they had a large Ukrainian and Moldovan minority. This Russian guy, he's really big over there. Although, as you can tell, he's from the 1800s, so he's been dead for around 100 years now. I don't remember his name, but they put him on a lot of stuff. On the back, we got the Capitol building. I've actually seen pictures of this. It's in the capital of Transnistria, the name of which I unfortunately cannot recall at the moment. But this is a pretty neat one. The reason I got this, so I checked on my Numista account. Turns out I already had this one. The reason I bought it, though, is because I have a one Transnistrian ruble banknote that was overprinted as a 10,000 Transnistrian ruble banknote. And I wasn't sure if I had one of the 1 rubles that was not printed. So I got this one. Turns out I already had one. It's technically from a different year than the one that was overprinted is 10,000. They're both from 1994. The one that was overprinted, I think, is from 1993. Yeah, this one's still interesting because of the context of it and considering everything that's happening over there. Status of Transnistria might not be stable for very long. I should also mention that Transnistria is actually an interesting case because the Russian military maintains a permanent presence in Transnistria. They currently keep around 1,500 Russian soldiers there on a regular basis. So it's understandable to see why Moldova is very concerned about this, considering what Russia has done to Ukraine over Luhansk and Donetsk. So that's a pretty interesting banknote. So this country wasn't a part of the Soviet Union, but they were definitely in the Warsaw Pact area because they were an Eastern European country that did fall under communist rule. This is 20 Lev banknote from Bulgaria. This is from 1991, so I think this was their first banknote issue after switching from a communist government to the government that they currently have, which I'm not exactly sure how I would describe. So you've got this woman on the front. I don't know who she is, but you can tell that she was looks like some sort of like royal figure. On the back, we got what looks like an Orthodox church. Very pretty. This is a very interesting color scheme. We got the blue with a purple to yellow-orange gradient. I think we see a little pink on the back there as well. Next one, this is an interesting one. Haiti from 2004, the bicentennial of Haitian independence, 1804 to 2004. This is worth 10 gourds. And it's interesting, if you look, you can see that it both has French, since French is a very common language in Haiti because they were a French colony, but also the Haitian Creole language. On the back, we got this older looking fort here. I'm not exactly sure if this was like some location that was important during the Haitian Revolution or if it was just a historical location they decided to put on there. Still a neat banknote, the context of it. And now previously I showed a banknote from World War II, the Moroccan banknote. Now this is another World War II era banknote that's also square shaped, but it's much larger. This is 10 lire of Allied military currency for Italy. It's very basic, got this square. It's hard to make out, but there's kind of a design on the front. You can just barely see it. It's from 1943. On the back, well, Allied military currency. All these banknotes, I don't think this is faded. All the banknotes kind of look like this. They got very light print on the back. It's an interesting one. I have the 1 lire from that same issue. Now this is a Greek banknote. Has no date on it. I didn't know this at the time, but this is from 1944. And it's worth 100 drachma. And this was issued by the Greek government. I also have a Greek banknote from that same year that was issued by the puppet government set up by fascist Germany after they took over Greece. But this is from the legitimate Greek government. This is a very interesting design on it. We got this guy on the front, a burning ship on the bottom there. I didn't notice that previously. On the back, we got this winged figure, very nice. Not sure what this is, though. Like who it's supposed to be. Still really neat, though. And this is an interesting one. I'll just show it. This is Spain, 1953, one peseta, and it's uncirculated. I have one of these already, not in as good condition, 1953, but this is neat because this is uncirculated. Very neat design. This one's smaller, but I think that's probably because it's only one peseta, so not really much use to put it in a larger size. And last but not least is this very large banknote from China, 1942. Now, this was issued by the reformed government of the Republic of China, which was not the legitimate Republic of China. It was a puppet state created by Japan. And they put Sun Yat sen on the front, but I don't think Sun Yat sen would have been on good terms with this government because he was the head of the Kuomintang, and the Japanese took some of the Kuomintang who ruled China at the time and sort of just turned them into collaborators to try and establish authority over China because Japan invaded China. Sun Yat sen had nothing to do with that. He fought against the Japanese, from all that I know. There unfortunately were some politicians who did. I think they were imprisoned or executed after the war. This is a pretty neat banknote in terms of design because you can see they got the big haul here, 1942, right on the bottom. And got signatures. Actually, they signed it in English, not Chinese, which is pretty interesting. And the front again, this is much more Chinese looking than the back. I just find it interesting how a lot of the Chinese banknotes would have one side in Chinese but another side in English. I'm pretty sure a lot of these banknotes, including this one, were probably printed in the United States. But then again, I've seen banknotes printed in the United States for non-English speaking countries that didn't have any English on them at all. So I'm not exactly sure why they had an English side on it. But still, pretty neat. One last banknote. This is one I already owned. It was sitting here at the house for some reason. Didn't bring it with me when I moved. But this is 10 new pence for the British Armed Forces, issued 1970s. Some pretty good condition. Very minimalistic design. I mean, it is military currency, so not really much detail you would expect. I have two other ones just like this. So yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts about any of the banknotes I showed, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Make sure to like, subscribe if you like my videos, and that's it. Thanks for watching.